everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Doodling Through Education. For my CC students, this is Cycle 1, Week 8, History. For everyone else, that just means we're going to be talking a little bit about the Age of Imperialism. So if you haven't already, hop on over to doodlingthrougheducation.com. I've created workbooks to go along with each of these videos. There's 4 sheets per video per week for history and science. So I put a link for that in the description. I really think it'll help your students to expand and kind of solidify the stuff that we learn in these videos. I also wanted to make a note that I went ahead and separated it by quarter. So you can just buy the workbooks by quarter if you would prefer that. But without further ado, let's start doodling. Today we are going to talk about some things that happened in the age of imperialism. But first, let's talk about the word imperialism. What does this mean? Well, imperialism is when a country uses military force or diplomacy within the government to extend its rule over another nation or territory. And this is done often for either economic or political reasons. This age of imperialism was this period in history that began around 1870. And this was when some developed nations took over some maybe less developed areas. And in doing this, they expanded the power that they had in the world. So specifically in this video, we're going to talk about Britain's influence over India during this time. So it all began when Europeans were interested in trading with this Mughal Empire. However, this interest in trading with India really signified the decline of this Indian empire. And as a result, Europeans began establishing forts and factories all over India and around this area. So let's go back and talk about how this all began. The British East India Company was founded in 1600. And like I said, this company was founded because Britain was very interested in trading with India and within the Indian Ocean region in general. This escalated quite a bit, and the East India Company really took over control of much of the Indian subcontinent. Their interests rose beyond just the trade of cotton, silk, and tea, and the East India Company really began to be a military authority in many sections of India. The British East India Company began increasing taxations on already struggling people in India, and because of this, by 1773, almost 10 million people had died of famine, which is equivalent to almost 1/3 of the population here. The emperors in India really tried to hold on to their thrones during this time, but as a result of all these taxations, they didn't have very much power. The Indian Rebellion of 1857 was an uprising in India against the British East India Company, but it was unsuccessful on all parts. Britain exiled the last Mughal emperor in this rebellion, and the British East India Company did dissolve after this. So truly, this Indian Rebellion wasn't quite successful for anyone involved, although because of the dissolution of the British East India Company, the British government then decided to take over. But in the end, in a roundabout kind of way, the British government was successful. And so with the British government taking control during this period of time, the rule over India was called the British Raj. On August 2nd, 1858, Britain passed the Government of India Act, and this transferred all the British power over India from the government to the crown. And this is when Queen Victoria took control over India. The British Raj ruled over about 2/3 of modern India, while other portions remained under the control of local Indian princes. These areas were able to maintain independence and even fought against Britain during times of mutiny, but also made treaties with the British Raj. There were almost 560 different governances in India that were able to maintain independent control. One of the reasons why historians believed that the British were able to come in and take control so easily of India was that they kind of capitalized on a period of division in Indian society, and the British really took advantage of this. Now, let's move over and start talking about the British Indian Army. In the First World War, when Britain declared war on Germany, they were able to have about 1.5 million Indian soldiers serve the British Indian Army. So many of the Indian soldiers fought under the British flag, but there was this sense of discontentment and a desire for independence from Britain. And this led a man named Mahatma Gandhi, who was a lawyer in India, to really start leading the effort for independence. In April of 1919, unarmed protesters gathered at an area called Amritsar, and this place was really difficult for British to control. And on the morning of the 13th, during a festival, British troops were ordered to actually fire into the crowd of unarmed protesters. And this is thought to be a massacre because it killed at least 379 unarmed people and injured over 1,200 of these civilians. This was a turning point in history because in India, this increased the desire for independence, and Indian nationalism grew. And then this independence movement became much stronger. The Indian National Congress was founded before this in 1885, but as World War II raged on, Gandhi and other members of this INC continued to act against the British rule. In July of 1942, the Indian National Congress passed a resolution which demanded to have complete independence from Britain. And they threatened that if they did not give them their independence, that there would be great civil unrest in their country. These revolts shaped the end of the British Raj in India. And British rule in India was ended on August 15th, 1947, and India was granted their independence. And that's all we have for today. Be sure to do your homework this week and complete those 4 worksheets. You can do 1 per day, or you can do them all in one day if you would like. But don't forget to do your homework. And on that note, remember to be kind, follow God's will, and take care. Bye.